Okay, we're live. Hey everyone, I am here to do the introduction because we're sorry, we've got a Christmas special going on, and as you can see, I've got, what are you now? I've got John here with a delightful hat. Anyways, this is all about Christmas. We've got
You need to tell them why.
what?
Because, well, last week I refused to wear the Christmas hat, right?
Yeah.
So you all jumped to Sue's defense, saying, "Oh, John, you know." So it's because of you guys that you know, because I can't argue with our viewers
That you're wearing the hat.
Yeah. So
He'll move on.
thanks
You're
so
welcome.
much.
So we are here at the magical Jason and Lisa Stevens home, and I'm only going to be here for 1 minute because we want to introduce you to a really special evening that's going to be all about John, Jason, and drinks and Dickens. So what's going to happen is that these two are going to have a gander. They're going to have talking about making some drinks and talking about Dickens. But
Now you've met Jason before.
yeah,
We did the La Gritona
yeah.
tequila episode with him in Parksville. But 'tis the season here, so we are going to do some traditional English drinks. We're going to get into that
Yeah.
just momentarily.
And we've got a very special treat, so do hold on to the end of the drinks because Jason's actually going to do a scene or about 5 minutes worth of his one-man show on the Christmas Carol that he does at Craigdarroch Castle, and it's mesmerizing. So I don't think he's done that.
And that's part of the timing here.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we wanted to do, what we're doing today is drinks for a Christmas party, or larger batch drinks. But it also is the day before Jason's opening night at Craigdarroch Castle.
Which we're going to talk about in just a second when I get off screen.
Which we should, but I just want to mention, if you want to go, tomorrow's show is sold out at 6.
Yeah.
But there are still tickets available for the 8 o'clock show. Do yourself a favor, go see this. It's really good.
Yeah, and they did a little promo on Check with Jason as well. And if you didn't see it, it's quite hilarious. Not because Jason wasn't completely incredible, but he was standing beside Ed Bain, and Ed really looked like Elf on a Shelf. I swear to God, it was just hilarious. Anyways, without further ado, I am going to take off. I will be serving drinks to these two. Bye-bye. Jason, up to you.
Hello, thank you for having me back.
Jason, thank you for having us over.
Nice hat.
Thank you. Same to
Your
you.
hat looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mine's better.
Yours is dignified. We also, as you can see, we phoned up before school and arranged to dress exactly the same.
Yeah.
For no real good reason.
Yeah. If it's but for the hats, you wouldn't be able to tell us apart, really. So.
If I put on glasses, I would, you know.
Yeah. It'd be. Yeah.
Twins.
You could take out a mortgage in my name or something.
Hey, no, that's not a bad idea. It is Christmas.
It is Christmas time.
And we're going to do sort of an older English theme thing with our punch drinks. We're going to start off with the quintessential Christmas drink, which is eggnog. You can buy it at the grocery store if you like. It comes in all different flavors.
Yeah.
I thought, in keeping with the spirit of everything, we'd make this from scratch. So that's what we've done. I'm not going to bore you with the process. It's a bit of a process. Essentially, you're making custard. For those of you who know how to cook, and this does not include me. So apparently you make a custard, and you add like a hot milk to it, which tempers the eggs. This is very heavy on calories, pretty heavy on eggs too. We've done a half batch for this because there are only 4 of us. We have, I think we use 6 eggs and a bunch of sugar and a bunch of cream. So like I said, if you're on a diet, you might.
You're not watching this show.
No. Switch over to a keto channel or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so without further ado, we're going to try out the eggnog. I've not yet tried it. It smells good. A little note about the eggs. This entails using eggs that start out raw. You use only the yolks. You'll want to use pasteurized eggs. Don't go farm fresh on this. Pasteurized eggs protects you a little bit from the problems that you can cause. But tempering the eggs with the milk, as long as you get it to the right temperature, which we did, you should be safe. So we're going to try, what's the first one? There's different things you can mix with eggnog,
This
right?
one is the rum.
So we're going to try this
Thank
first
you.
of all
You're welcome.
with Kraken spiced rum.
Cheers.
Cheers.
The rum one.
Huzzah.
I'll just show the. There's the rum. Oh, that's.
Kraken.
Isn't that good?
Thank you, Ben.
Yes, that is. It tastes like. Well, it tastes like Christmas. Creamy and really. There's a picante. Really spicy.
Yeah.
What are the spices you use in this?
So, one of the first things you do is you make a little water bath with allspice, cinnamon, mace, and nutmeg.
No, these are the spices that you don't use the rest of the year. You sort of hide out in the
Yeah.
back of your spice cupboard.
Yeah,
until
so
Christmas.
you're gonna have to dig all these
Yeah,
out
yeah.
from in front of the salt and pepper and
Yeah.
all the other crap to keep in
Yeah.
there. So you use a little bit of each of that. You heat this to a boil and you reduce it down until it's almost syrup. And that becomes part of the eggnog and the main spiciness to it.
Gonna slam that back there, elves?
That was rather lovely.
Hello.
Delicious.
Yeah, so I get more English.
We
as
have
I drink
puppies.
more. I find that I turn into.
That's not us exploding over here.
No,
that's
we have
the
a fire going, and it's the neighbors. They cut down one of their trees, and they're like, "Do you want the wood?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." So I took their tree with a wheelbarrow. It took me about 4 hours to move it round by round into my backyard, and then I cut it because I do that.
Yar.
And threw out my back and couldn't walk for a couple days because that happened too. So it's not the driest wood, so it does hiss and pop. But hey, there's cheap and there's free.
There's something about a real wood fire though.
Yeah, there is something gratifying.
It's good, hey? Oh,
This
you
is
are
awesome.
in the North Pole.
Bring us more eggnog. please.
Do you want a spoon?
All right. Oh, I've got a spoon. Oh, did I not stir it right? All right. Okay.
So-
All right, so
This
Yeah,
one.
so the spices do tend to float to the top a little bit just because it's so thick. It's not as thick and syrupy as the store-bought stuff, though, I noticed.
So this one is what, cognac?
Yeah, so
All right.
you've also heard brandy and eggnog. We're just gonna up it one notch.
Yeah.
Sanche. And have cognac and eggnog. So we're gonna try this out.
drastically different flavor profile, I would say.
I haven't tried it yet.
Yes,
Totally.
totally different thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
that's smooth
yeah.
and therefore dangerous. So you'd be drunk and fat.
Yeah, drunk and fat. Yeah.
Which, it's...
It is Christmas. You don't see too many, jolly, thin, sober people at Christmas time. At least on the that's not how they're depicted. It's usually like
No.
rosy-cheeked, portly gentlemen who probably reek of booze.
That's me.
That's it should be the way God intended, anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Why do you guys remind me of, what is it, Bob and Doug McKenzie?
Bob and Doug,
Bob and Doug McKenzie?
how's it going, eh?
That's too Canadian for me.
That too Canadian?
Too Canadian for me. No. I aspire to be like just a fat, lardy English guy when I get to be older. I want to look like Churchill when I hit 70. Lisa doesn't like that.
Your wife isn't happy.
By that point, though,
I'd be satisfied with hitting 70.
I know, totally, yeah.
So this is delicious.
Yes, this is fabulous.
I like the second one, hey? Yeah.
So we do have one more.
It's very good.
Apparently, one of the more common
Jason's first.
American formalizations is to use bourbon.
Bourbon.
We're not using bourbon on this. Well, actually,
Isn't this Fireball? I don't know.
no. So we're using a spiced.
Thank you.
Oh wait, what is 40 Creek?
These get a little bigger every time.
I know. Good luck with that. By the way, yeah, you got my job. This is fun.
All right.
Lisa and I like the second one, by the way.
Yeah, I think the first
The
one.
cognac?
I like the
cognac.
Kraken better
Okay.
than the cognac.
Okay.
Cognac is
Oh wait, we need to.
Oh.
We need to show you this. It's going to come up backwards on your screen probably. It says 3 wise men. You can't be serious.
Hence, there's only 2 of us.
Yeah.
That would be from us. No.
Yes. Yeah. No one would have guessed that.
All right. This is what is it? This is the
This is
Not
this
bourbon,
is
but-
spiced whiskey.
spiced whiskey.
So we're gonna try this out. Is that little bottle over there?
Is that little bottle? Oh. I knew it's right beside you, isn't it? Oh.
No. Could you just read what it says on it?
You're funny. Jason, you have glasses. Would you mind?
No, I wouldn't.
Because I
mind.
can't see a darn thing.
This is-
Spike, honey spiced whiskey, spiced Canadian whiskey.
Oh, okay. So it's rye or
Yeah,
is something close
some
to it.
variant of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
How was that one?
And I think this might be my favorite of the 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
What did you, girls? What did you like? Rum, cognac, or
Cognac. We both like the cognac. So we're going to post the recipe for the eggnog, right? Later?
yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned eggnog being fitting in with the Old English theme that we've got going here. Eggnog is ancient in terms of the drinks that we've been having. This originates from the 13th century. That's before Chaucer even.
Yeah, that's old.
Old, even older than me.
Yeah.
And I guess one theory is that it derived from something called posset.
Yeah, some Saxon word.
Yeah. It was traditionally served warm. It was a milk punch, which was a thing back then. If you recall the gin and milk episode, I think we talked about that for a second. And posset now, I think, is some kind of sort of a flan or something. It's morphed into a dessert as opposed to a drink. But it comes from way back then, and then in the 1700s it became, it made the leap across the pond to the Americas, and it became a Christmas drink.
It became popularized.
Speaking of Christmas drinks, we're going from a cold punch to a hot punch.
Yes.
And this one I think is what we mentioned. This is called Smoking Bishop. And this comes from, was this from?
It was popularized. Well, the original, I think it was in the 1600s. They made bishop because it's red, like a bishop's cassock. But it was really popularized by A Christmas Carol when it was mentioned in the final page of that book. But the strange thing about it is this was at the time when Christmas was sort of invented. Now, Christmas was not, I mean, to us, it's like the big, on the Christian calendar, it's the big holiday. It wasn't that way. And it used to be Easter was the big deal. It was the holiest day in the Christian calendar. And Christmas was relegated to a secondary holiday. It wasn't as important. And it's funny because the first war on Christmas was actually in after the English Civil War, when the Puritans, because they were fun, decided to outlaw all the fun stuff that was of pagan origin. Because if you look at what we do on Christmas time, it's pretty much pagan stuff. Like the tree, for instance, is not, they didn't do that in Palestine. And it wasn't until Queen Victoria married Albert, who was, I think, from Hanover. Yeah.
Yeah, German. Yeah.
He came over from Hanover, and of course they're bonkers for Christmas in Germany. And he brought over the first Christmas tree that was set up in Buckingham Palace, and they sent postcards. The first Christmas card was actually the royal family, where little Vicky and Prince Albert sitting around their Christmas tree. And so the next year, everyone had to get a Christmas tree. And that made it across the pond too, because that's where the Christmas tree came from, and that's why the holiday became much more important. And then, of course, Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol in the 1840s, and the rest, as they say, is history. So, the reinvention of Christmas.
That was cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because the Puritans tried to stamp it out. Because they hated everything. They hated hot cross buns.
We hate fun.
They banned hot cross buns because it had a cross on them, and that's sacrilegious. They banned maypoles. I mean, who doesn't like to dance around a giant phallus on,
I do that every
every
week.
I
Like,
can. Yeah,
right?
totally.
Yeah. Woo!
And then they also banned the theater. Of course, can't have that because that's competition for the church. Yeah, I know. Sorry, wasn't that funny, dude? I want to see eggnog come out your nose.
It went up my nose.
Dribble into your beard. Yeah, so they were the Taliban of their day. Yeah.
Where does Saturnalia fit?
Saturnalia was the Roman holiday around winter.
Yeah.
The winter solstice. It was also called the Invictus, Sol Invictus. It means the unconquered sun, the day when the sun starts coming back. And what they would do is they would have situations where the slave and the master would switch roles. So the master would serve the slave, for a joke. They would deck their houses with pine boughs. That was a Roman thing. That's why we do it. They would, they'd burn a Yule log, or the Roman equivalent of that. A lot of the traditions that we have were established by Saturnalia. Of course, they'd also get drunk, strip off naked, and run through the streets singing naked and drunk was also an important part of Saturnalia.
So, there's some things that just really ought to come back.
Pretty much to bring that one back. Yeah, naked men singing in the street.
Oh, hang on, just men?
Yeah.
No, let's scrap that.
Yeah. Well, I mean... Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that'd be like, I guess we kind of feel like an idiot after a while.
Well, after a while.
Well, I just because we would be the only ones to show up. And it's not exactly a mob, but when it's like two guys.
The worst part about that is I'd be more embarrassed about my singing.
Oh, would you?
That would be the most embarrassing part of that.
Well, see, I'd have to do the masked singer thing, and then I could be fine.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Anyway.
So, Smoking Bishop.
Smoking Bishop.
Here it comes.
It's slight explanation of the name. Smoking comes from the steam that would come from it because it is served warm, hot. And Bishop, I guess it was served in vessels that resembled a bishop's mitre, or the bishop's hat type thing.
Whoa, there you go.
So we have some very, what did you call these? Baronial.
Baronial.
Glassware, thank you.
Which is our new word for the day.
Yeah.
Baronial.
Baronial.
Baron-like. Cheers.
Cheers.
How does it taste?
Oh, it's like Christmas in your mouth.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
this is-
oranges. Do you stud them with
I was
cloves?
gonna say, we didn't even.
Yeah, so a bit of a process. I followed a thing on a website called Drinking with Dickens, and I followed the instructions on that. It is quite It's not hard. There's certain periods of letting things rest and soak and so on. We'll post that. We'll post that in the comments. I'm not going to go into that. But one point of it, you take a bunch of oranges, and in this case a lemon, because the oranges that were traditionally used in this are Seville oranges. So if you can find Seville oranges this time of year, good on you. A substitute for that is to use, instead of 6 Seville, you use 5 oranges and a lemon. You stud them with cloves and you roast them for an hour and a quarter. And then you heat up some wine and you marinate them in this hot wine mixture for a day and so on and so forth.
Wow.
It's worth it.
Totally worth it.
And the house smells good.
Yeah,
too.
I can't drink other mulled wines now. They all taste crappy to me. Compared to Bishop, it's like, this is it. Call off the dogs. The hunt is over. This is all you need for a wine punch.
That's delicious.
It really is.
That's the best mulled wine I've ever had.
Yeah.
So this is the last phase of this. Is you combine this. I used a Merlot, by the way. That comes from Cookie and Kate website that you've heard me mention before. She hasn't steered me wrong so far.
Steered you wrong.
Shut up.
Better you than me.
Cook.
Hasn't steered me wrong so far. Everyone's a critic, and it works. We also used a ruby port as opposed to a tawny port. According to the interwebs, tawny is slightly sweeter.
Yeah.
And I think we hit it.
I think we did. I think you nailed it.
I think we did it. The inspiration for this, though, comes from, again, the last page of the Christmas Carol after Scrooge's transformation.
Yeah.
And so I've been waiting for this all week. Jason is going to give us an excerpt from his performance, and I am going to sit here
And just drink it up.
in awe.
Would you mind if I just switch the camera a little bit for you?
Oh, more on me?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Fine.
So let's just switch this over.
Fine. There we go.
All right.
Yes.
Everybody sees the Christmas tree and Jason.
There we go.
Okay. And if it cuts out, people, don't worry. Afterwards, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a thing I've been doing for 10 years, my 10th year, at Craigduck Castle in their ballroom doing a Christmas carol. And it started because I was home alone with kids, and that kind of made me bonkers. I did it as a fundraiser for my daughter's preschool. And then I did it for a while at like a blethering place in Oak Bay. It was ridiculous. That was a long time
That's
ago.
the first time I saw you do that. Was at Blethering Place.
Yeah, people are eating their liver and onions, and there's me doing this thing. And then I started doing it at the castle, and it hasn't looked back. It's become a thing. So if you get a chance to check it out, it will be the most Christmassy thing you've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be like, oh my God. I wouldn't be surprised if I would see you again after that.
It's a tradition for us.
Yeah, people come back. It's a great story, and it's a great place. That castle in the wintertime is like a wind instrument. It sort of howls, and this is actually a ghost story, so it's pretty good for that. Anyway, the bit I'm going to do for you is during the visit of the Ghost of Christmas Present. Big character. He shows up. He takes Scrooge to see how Bob Cratchit's Christmas is going, and how even though they're wretched and they're poor, they're happy and they're satisfied and everything's cool. And then he transports him to his nephew's house. His nephew who invited him for Christmas dinner, and Scrooge blew him off. And this is when he sees what he's missing. It came as a great surprise to Scrooge as this scene passed to hear a hearty laugh. It came as a much greater surprise to recognize it as his own nephew's, and to find himself in a bright, dry, gleaming room with the spirits smiling beside him. Now it is a fair, even-handed, noble adjustment of things, that while there is contagion and disease and sorrow, there is nothing as irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor. He said Christmas was a humbug, as I live! He believed it too. Well, the more shame on him, Fred. Oh, he's a harmless old man, and not as pleasant as he might be, but I haven't a word to say against him. His punishments are met by his own behavior. He takes it into his heart not to dine with us. He won't come and enjoy this. What's the consequence? Well, he doesn't lose much of a dinner. Indeed, I think he loses a very good dinner, and all agreed, and it must be allowed they were competent judges, for they had just had dinner, and with dessert upon the table they stood round the fire with their tea. Oh, very well, if you say so. I frankly have no faith in these young housekeepers. What do you think, Topper? Topper clearly had his eye on Scrooge's niece's sister, for he answered that as a bachelor, he was a wretched outcast, had no right to express an opinion on that subject, whereat Scrooge's niece's sister blushed. After the tea they had some music, for they were a musical family. They knew what they were about when they sang a glee or a catch, especially Topper, who could growl away in the bass like a good 'un and not go red in the face or swell the large vein on his forehead doing it. But they didn't devote the entire evening to music. They also had a game of blind man's buff. And I no more believe that Topper was really blinded than I believe he had eyes in his boots. For the way in which he went after that plump sister was an outrage. Tumbling over the furniture, knocking over the fire irons, smothering himself in the curtains. Wherever she went, there went he. He wouldn't catch anyone else. And if you had bumped up against him, as some did, he'd make a feint of endeavoring to seize you while instantly sidling off in the direction of the plump sister. Our time is short. We must be away. Oh, but Spirit, there's another game. Oh, one more, please. Just one more. The game was called Yes or No, whereat Scrooge's nephew had to think of something, and the others tried to guess what it was, he answering their questions yes or no, as the case was. The barrage of questions elicited from him that he was thinking of an animal, a large animal, a rather unpleasant animal, an animal that growled and grunted sometimes, and lived in London, and talked sometimes, and was never killed in a market, was never led about the streets, and was not a dog or a cat or a bear or an ocelot. As each question was put to him, Scrooge's nephew became so irresistibly tickled he was obliged to stand up from the couch and stamp. Finally, the plump sister called out, "I know what it is, Fred, I know what it is." Well, what is it then? "It's your Uncle Scrooge," which of course it was. Admiration was the universal sentiment, though one person bitterly complained that the answer to "Is it a bear?" ought to have been yes. "Well, he has given us some entertainment. It would be wrong of us not to drink his health, and therefore I give you Uncle Scrooge." Well, Uncle Scrooge! Uncle Scrooge had grown so gay and light of heart that he would have drunk to the invisible company in inaudible speech, but the whole scene passed away on the last words spoken from his nephew, and he and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and far they went. Many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. The phantoms stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. On foreign lands, and they were close at home. By struggling men, and they were patient in their greater hope. By poverty, and it was made rich. In almshouse, hospital, and jail, in misery's every refuge, where vain man in his little brief authority had not locked the door and barred the spirit out, he left his blessing, and taught Scrooge his precepts. But as they stood together in an open place, from the foldings of its robe, the phantom produced two children. They were a boy and a girl, wretched, meager, ragged, wolfish. Where angels might have sat, devils glared out menacingly. Scrooge recoiled in horror. "Spirit, are they yours?" "They are man's. They cling to me. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware of them both. But most of all, beware this boy. For on his brow I see that written there, which is doom unless the writing be erased." Well, have they no recourse or refuge? Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? The clock struck 12. Scrooge looked about him for the spirit, but he saw it no more. And as the last stroke of 12 ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, hooded and draped and coming like a mist along the ground towards him. And we all know where that leads.
That's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Oh, brilliant.
That is
So, yeah.
incredible.
Great story. Since it's been published, it's never been out of print.
And it was published 1840.
1840s. I don't know exactly off the top of my head. Maybe someone can Google that for me. I know it was December 19th because I'm not actually performing on December 19th this year, so I don't actually get to do it on the anniversary. But
Wow.
oh well. But yeah, it was incredible. He was an incredible writer. Dickens was the man. Dickens was that. Well, I mean, it's the Dickensian age. I mean, he was easily the most famous man in England for
1843.
1843. Yeah.
We have a team of research.
We have a team. Yeah. He by the time he was 20, he was a well-known author. People stopped him in the street. He liked being stopped in the street. He would wear brightly colored waistcoats so that people could more easily identify him because he loved that gratification, and he was, insanely popular. And he for his time, he was pretty progressive. And it all stemmed from his childhood, which sounds fairly idyllic until he turned 12. And that's when his father went to prison for debt. You see, this is what happened
Debtor's prison, right.
if you blew your credit cards in those days. You didn't file for bankruptcy, you went to jail. And of course, they were harsh. I mean, the dad goes in jail, so the family's broken up, and they become basically wards of the state. And given that this was that era, little Charlie found himself yanked out of school and forced to work in a boot polish factory for 12 hours a day, gluing lids to tins of boot polish, and then he'd have to walk like 2 miles to his hovel of lodgings, which they put him up on in the East End of London, the rough part of town. And he describes those 4 years of his life as being terrifying. That the glimpse into that world, the underworld of London, had a profound effect on him. And you can read about it in things like Oliver Twist, when he talks about Sykes and Nancy and all that stuff's very fresh to him. And this is something that English audiences didn't really read about. If you look at English literature before that, it's all like, oh, will Mr. Darcy ask her to marry him? And it's all very the affairs of chaps on horseback and ladies who pine for them. And if there are commoners or rustics, they're usually in the background, kind of like with the livestock, adding color.
Yeah, grooming the horses and stuff.
Yeah, but actually having people who were flesh and blood, Oliver Twist, a little orphan boy who falls under the spell of the wicked Mr. Fagin, and you have characters like like Bill Sykes, the housebreaker, the thief, murderer, and his girlfriend Nancy, who of course is a prostitute. And these were popular books, and it's no coincidence that in Dickens' lifetime there were labor laws passed that said you couldn't send 12-year-olds down mine shafts anymore. You couldn't treat people quite as harshly because he shone a light on that. There's a lot of social change that happened in his lifetime that he contributed to by writing about it, and writing about it to the point where everyone read it. If you have a whole society that is reading Oliver Twist, then it's a little hard to, like I said, send them down mine shafts after that. They become a bit more visible. So he had a pretty profound effect on things.
Well, that was spectacular, Jason.
Thank you.
Like, honestly.
So one more request.
Yeah.
Could you do the line where they mention smoking bishop? Just to give you the context of having done it here.
But he was early at the office the next day. Oh yes, he was early there. If only he could arrive early and catch Bob Cratchit coming late. That is the thing he had his heart set on, and he did it. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15. No Bob. Bob was a full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. His hat was off when he came in, his comforter too, and he was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock. Hello, what do you mean by coming here this time of day? I beg your pardon, sir. I am a bit behind my time. You are, yes, I should say you are. Step this way, if you please. Please, sir, it shan't be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday. Now see here. I am not prepared to take this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I'm going to raise your salary. Bob stepped back warily, placed his hand on the ruler, thought of calling for a straight waistcoat. A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you cause for many a year. I will raise your salary and endeavour to assist your struggling family, and we shall discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a smoking bowl of Christmas Bishop. No, a Christmas bowl of smoking Bishop! God damn, I blew it! Oh no, that's so embarrassing. Balls.
Wonderful, we love it.
Balls, Bishop's balls!
Clearly the bishop is good.
It is.
Just drink it. It works out. You can cover, a Christmas bowl of smoking Bishop. Make up the fires, and you buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit. That's that.
You can't get much more Christmassy than that.
No, you can't. Get
Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, no, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
You've added us. Added a little bit of class to
a little bit of class.
A little bit of class to our usually classless
Totally. That was amazing, Jason.
sort of thing.
We really appreciate it.
So do check out thecastle.ca if you want to impress your friends. It's great to bring people to because you look like a genius.
And we are going to go on. We're going on the 16th.
We're
right?
going with a bunch of people on the 16th.
Yeah.
We'll get to enjoy that all over again. It has become one of the things we do every year, and I predict that it will be something that you do every year too, because it's just so Christmassy. Yeah. And now you can go home and make yourself a bowl of smoking
Bishop. Smoking Christmas bollocks. Bishop. Yeah.
I should say I'm going to post the recipe for the smoking bishop and also link to Jason's show.
Yeah.
But what's really hilarious about the smoking bishop recipe is that the prep time says, I think half an hour.
Oh yeah, somebody called in on that. Yeah.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
Anyhow, it's a week.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
See you next week, guys.
God bless us,
Bye.
everyone.
Everyone.